People of Reddit, what's the dumbest thing you've done because you were in the mood? And in the interest of being dumb today, I'm rocking the good old glacier glasses. Shout out to Jilbo, they make some cool stuff. Looks fun, is weird, works well. No, they're not a sponsor, I just really enjoy their products. Here we go. Story 1. Around 8 years back, I lived in northern Mozambique, a coastal southern African country with a warm climate. My mother at the time was going through a health nut phase and only buying foods she deemed healthy enough. One of these was coconuts. She would buy several coconuts a week to use in food from the local market. Anyway, being a hormonal teenager, I would partake in private activities in regular intervals. Unfortunately, there was some severely stressful exams coming up for me, and as such, my deposits at the Spank Bank reached a higher peak than usual, and I was feeling pretty, frustrated. One day, I hear that my mother's going to be out for pretty much the entire afternoon. Frisky me decides that it would be a fantastic idea to use one of the coconuts. Honest, to this day, I can't fathom why I thought that it was a good idea, but my train of thought back then was clearly somewhat clogged. So I end up grabbing the coconut, drill, and go for about 20-ish minutes of concerted effort to end up creating a big hole large enough for me to stick my porker into. I decided that it required some lube, and so I grabbed my nearest slippery thing, which was some butter, before shoving it into the coconut, followed shortly by my meat. Screw that coconut, and it actually felt pretty dang good. So when I finish, I shove the coconut under my bed and continue about my day. Now, there's actually a bunch more to the story, and it's pretty awful. But I'll leave that linked because I'm not going through that here. Absolutely not. But if you want, it'll be in the description. Story 2. I was helping my dad close up the sailboat for winter. He took the seat cushions out, and the long ones had to go in the car between us. Kinda stacked up like a wall so we could only see each other's heads. Teenage hormones kicked in on the hour ride home, and I proceeded to rub one out while looking out the window. Many moons later, I told my brothers, who then proceeded to tell my dad. He later said, "I always wondered why you were so quiet on that trip." I love that. I love these stories that dads are just totally nonchalant about stuff like this. I think that's hysterical. That's some good parenting right there. Hey, it's gonna happen. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. It's weird you did it beside me, son, but you know what? That whole thing makes a lot more sense now. Moving on. Drove 4 hours to the beach to camp with a hookup buddy of mine. He stood me up and ghosted me. The icing on the cake was losing my keys in the sand and having to pay $300 for a new set to be cut. It sounds to me more than just a hookup buddy, personally. Everyone I know, including myself, thinks that an hour-long drive is more than enough time to spend, each way. But 4 hours each way? There's something more going on there, or was before they stood this person up. Story 4. Decided to make a deposit into a urinal because I was bored and frisky studying for finals when I was in college. I studied in an empty classroom in the creepiest old building on campus so that I could be completely focused and not distracted. I hadn't seen anybody in that building for probably around 3 hours or so I didn't feel the need to lock the bathroom door or do my business in a stall like a normal person. So I'm going to town on myself, and suddenly the bathroom door opens up, and I stop mid-stroke. I just stood there, holding myself for a second, put it back in my pants, and left without making eye contact. I still have no idea who that person was, but they definitely knew what I was doing, and that I'm a weird guy. Yeah. If you're gonna do it in public, I don't think it's a good idea personally, but lock the stall door. Risks are fun, sure, but don't be dumb. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting kicked out of school or having your name, dragged down the sidewalk, basically, and your whole reputation destroyed. You don't want to be known as that kid as part of the graduating class. That's not worth it. Story 5. Several years back, a woman I'd been flirting with called me in the middle of the night one time because she wasn't feeling well and asked if I could pick up some medicine and bring it to her place. Went to her place, not expecting too much other than maybe earning some brownie points for dropping off the meds. Anyway, she invites me in and asks if I could spend the night with her. That, of course, gets me all going. However, by the time we get into bed, she's all tired and drowsy from the meds, despite her best attempts at acting seductive. Next thing I know, I'm lying in bed next to her with my arm pinned under her body while she's snoring away and farting. I end up lying like the rest of the night, just wide awake, probably got 30 minutes of sleep that entire night, and of course I had to get up to work a whole shift in the morning. At least I did earn some brownie points for that, because we ended up dating for not quite a year afterwards, but we did end up dating. Yeah, worth it, perhaps, maybe. This man has the patience of a saint to stay up all night with his arm pinned. I would have been like, hey, I'm just gonna go. Yes, I woke you up, that's fine, I'm gonna just go, because I'm not staying awake all damn night. No, sir. Story 6. Girl offered me some hands-on services if I let her copy my answers off of one of our finals. I thought it was going to be something afterwards, but nope, it was right there during a lecture. Being a typical young guy, of course I wasn't going to reject the offer. Still surprised to this day that we weren't caught, though. Yeah, typical young guy. Like I keep saying, to each their own for sure, absolutely. But I wouldn't be taking that risk. In that situation, your reputation probably wouldn't get dragged across the street, but you still might get kicked out for public indecency. That's not something you want to be known for. Don't do this. If you're in college, keep it to the dorms, not the classrooms. No one wants to be thinking about how the seat they're sitting in might be sticky for reasons beyond just someone bringing a soda to class. Story 7. I once walked 3 miles at 2 a.m. during a snowstorm in -3 degrees with a serious wind chill when my girlfriend called and said that her parents were gone for the weekend. The things a 16-year-old kid'll do to get some action. Story 8. Finished off at the top of a mountain, looking out over my city, as if doing something forbidden. You know, it was an interesting idea. And, well, the view was pretty amazing, but I was scared to get caught the entire time. Looking back, if someone would have caught me, I would have had serious issues now. Story 9. Dyed my hair black. My roommate was doing it, and the girl helping him was redonkulously hot. She came into the living room and told me, "We have some extra dye. I think you look really hot with black hair." I looked at her in that lime green tube top and said, "That sounds like a great idea." I found out I was allergic to hair dye when 3 days later my head swelled up and I looked like that orc general from Return of the King with a full head of Elvis black hair. It took a whole month of medication for it to go away, as my head was bright red under the hair and secreting a fluid that made my hair hard as a rock. Fun times. Yeah, I'll say, good lord. That doesn't sound like a particularly appetizing situation. Ugh. I'm kind of curious what his head, like what was the head secreting that made things hard? That seems like, I don't know of any bodily substance that would cause that except for one particular thing, and it's at damn near the opposite end of the body. Unless he was talking about a different kind of head that's got a little bit too much hair on it, but that's not the context I got from this story. Story 10. I almost decided to do the deed while driving down the highway once, but then I thought that if they found my mangled corpse in a wreck with my hand around my member, my family would be really disappointed, so my brain won that battle. Yeah, sometimes the head upstairs, it comes through for you. It makes the good decision, it wins the fight. A little bit of mental clarity. Usually you have to wait till afterwards for that to come through, but sometimes it comes through to begin with, and you know what? That's a good day. Story 11. Late teens, many years ago, me and my current wife were very frisky little people. We used to go under this highway overpass, a little off the beaten path, because our parents were always home. Well, it was also near a community center, and one day when we were walking through the woods to get there, someone thought that they saw a man abducting a child because I was a bear and she was very short. Long story long, I was getting some downstairs action, and a cop came down to the underpass from the highway up above and yelled, "Freeze!" Let me tell you, we both froze. She wouldn't move and had her face covered, with me still in her mouth. Then the cop just yelled at us, saying, "Can't you guys do this at home?" and told us about the call. It was the most embarrassing thing ever. We didn't even bring it up again until a few years later. Now, we're married, and it's a funny memory. We even went back there to mess around a year ago for the nostalgia's sake. Not sure why you'd want to go back to a grimy underpass, but okay, you do whatever anniversary trip makes you happy. Story 12. When I was a kid, my dad would frequently take me to his job and give me meaningless tasks to help him out. He was a property manager for a secure government building, federal guards at the doors, etc. Anyways, he had his office in the basement and was left alone down there by everyone else in the building. He would have a smoke down there and blast music, etc. When I was 13, I went with him to work one day, and he gave me the job of using an electric sander to take grime off the copper pipes in one of the machine rooms. I was left alone to my task for hours, and about an hour in, I realized how incredibly powerful the vibration was on the sander. One thing led to another, and I ended up grinding the handle of the sander on myself. After I finished, I remember, even at 13, saying to myself, "You're a really weird dude." Never told anyone till now. Whew! You had me a little bit freaked out there when you mentioned the sander. But, hey, you were exploring things. A lot of people have done some weird stuff. Granted, not with a disc sander, but hey, to each their own. Story 13. I had it so bad for this one girl at university back in 04, and she would not give me the time of day. I did everything I possibly could. Then, in a moment of insane desperation and browsing during the earlier days of the internet, I found some sort of self-proclaimed wizard living in California who specialized in love spells. And I shit you not, my 20-year-old brain thought it was a good idea to send said wizard $200 to cast the spell. Suffice it to say, the spell did not work. To this day, I still can't believe how stupid I was. Male hormones are ridiculous things. Yes, they can be. I have spent a lot of money on gas dating girls I've met out of town. Nothing like that beach story, but I think the longest I ever drove was 1.5 hours each way, which is, 3 hours round trip, and that stuff adds up real quick. Story 14. I like a bit of excitement in my life, so I tend to gravitate towards the more freaky kind of girls. It's always been like this since I was a teen. I think I probably have some issues too that I've got to work through. But this time was so messed up. I swore I'd never go for crazy again. The frisky business was amazing, but I think that's why I got myself into this problem. Over the course of 6 hours, she'd told a homeless man to go unalive himself, screamed out my car window saying she was being kidnapped and to call 000, tried to jump out of my car as I was going 80 kilometers an hour on the freeway, driving her back to where she lived, and damaged my car by opening the door, again, whilst I was moving. Eventually, her mum came over to my place. I dropped her at her mum's house, where she was living. The girl had a mark on her neck, because when she tried to jump out of the car, I must have grabbed her by the necklace. Although, this definitely saved her life, because she was going to go for it. She told her mum that I had abused her, and her mum started throwing punches at me at my doorstep. The girl then comes running down the driveway with her phone out, screaming, "I have you on camera assaulting my mother!" The mother was a lot smaller than I am, so all I did was block her swings, and I probably grabbed her wrists out in front of her at some point to stop her attacking me. Again, this all happened at my front doorstep, so at no point have I been worried about what happens to that footage. Who would attack someone at their own front door? Anyway, I was a bit of a wreck after that night. I couldn't believe it. I've dealt with some crazy and mentally challenged people in my life, but this was a whole new level. This felt like pure evil. I'm still not over it, and it's probably been about a month. So yeah, crazy is absolutely not worth it. Edit. She just went on trial for stabbing a man 12 times and SAing him with a bleach-covered broom handle. This all happened before we'd met. I think somehow I dodged a bullet here. Holy shit. Holy shit is right, dude. I mean, I've heard some stories of the crazy people that some of the guys I've known have dated, but nothing quite like this. Wow. A bleach-covered broom. Oh my god. Story 15. I was dating a girl at work, and we would regularly get busy at her side of our business complex. Though she was part of the same company, she was part of a separate regional division and not part of the corporate office, so her office was typically always empty besides her. One time we were getting really hot and heavy inside the restroom, and against our better judgment, we decided that going through her back door was a good idea. So we did our thing, and man, I finished like I'd never finished before. As I pulled out, there was a fair amount of poop on my members, so I walked over to the sink to try and wash it off. As I'm rinsing myself into the sink, we hear the door to the office open, and a large group of coworkers walk in. I panic, and immediately try to put my junk away. As I drop from my tiptoes, I slam my sack up against the counter of the sink and pull the connecting skin so hard I almost buckled in pain. She runs out of the restroom, closes the door behind her, and I'm just left sitting in the dark on the toilet seat with poop all over me, writhing in pain, contemplating my life choices. Now, on that lovely note, let's hop right into the rapid fire segment. 4 stories too short to make a full entry out of, but too good to be left out. Finished in the principal's office to his daughter's picture. Had 3 whole kids. 3 of them. I'm knackered. Paid for some chick's private Snapchat for a week. $20 wasted. Should have ordered a pizza instead. Discovered I'm too big for a prescription bottle. Got my cylinder stuck in a mini M&M's tube filled with butter and microwave mashed banana. There's actually more to that one. That one's also going to be linked in the description below. Paid $1,200 for a private room in Vegas. Threw the dancers a wild card and said, "Y'all sit down while I dance for you." What the f was I thinking? Sent a pic of my Johnson to an ACC and they threatened me that if I didn't give them $300, they'd leak it. So I sent him another one. I don't care if they leak it. Bailed a chick out of jail once. $200. Then she got so drunk she peed on my couch and tried to bang my mom. I think we're gonna have to take a break from some of these more ridiculous stories. Leave your story down below if you got one. I'd love to do a video on them in the future. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. My name is ReddList. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.